So 11F1, we're just looking at graphs in y-intercept form. Both of these are in y-intercept form because it's y equals, okay? Y equals, so we call that y-intercept form. So we need to extract from this both pieces of information. We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. So this is the y-intercept form. The coefficient, so that's a word we use for the number in front of, the coefficient of x is always the slope. So let's have a look up here and we're going to identify our slope. The number in front of x is 2. Okay, so our slope is 2. Alright, that's the first piece of information. Now 2 by itself is just a number, and one thing we can do is easily express it as a fraction. I'm going to just write it as 2 on top of 1. Okay? Whenever we have an integer by itself for the slope, we just put it on top of 1. Okay, next we need to identify the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is the constant term, and we're going to take with that any positives or negatives that belong to it. So the constant term, the number by itself, is minus 5. Okay, so we've abstracted both pieces of information that we need. We have the y-intercept. Now here's our Cartesian plane, right? This is our x-axis, this is our y-axis, and we know the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, that is minus 5. That's our starting point. Okay, so we're going to plot a dot there at minus 5. That's our starting position. That's our y-intercept. Now, can I just make a point here as well? The y-intercept occurs. What's the x value of the y-intercept? Who can tell me? 0, isn't it? The x value is 0. And look at this. If we put in x is 0 here, 2 times 0 is 0. We would have y equals minus 5, right? So the y-intercept occurs when x is 0. The y-intercept is minus 5. We know that. Now we have a slope of 2. Now I've expressed that as a fraction, 2 on 1. And remember from our slope formula, the slope is the change in y divided by the change in x. So that means we're always moving from the left to the right. Now look, x changes by 1, y changes by 2. Now it's positive, which means y is going up. So our next coordinate, we go across one space, a change in x of 1, and a change in y of 2. So I'm going up 1, up 2. That's my next coordinate. Okay? So we always move from left to right. How much is x changing? X is changing by 1. So we go across 1, up 2 spaces. And then all we're doing, you can do it from 3 points, you can do it from 2 points. All we're doing is drawing a line through those points. Yours should look nicer given you have a nice grid. Mine's just done by freehand. But that's what our line is going to look like. Has positive slope, right? You'd be walking uphill. Okay, that's the first one. Now, let's have a look at the second one, which is also expressed in y-intercept form, but we're being a little bit tricky because we haven't expressed it in the conventional manner. First, let's identify the slope. Now remember, the slope is the number in front of x. So we've got to find our x, and we look at the number in front of x. 3 on 2, but it's got this negative that belongs to it as well. Okay, so anytime there's a negative in front of the number, the negative belongs to it. So our slope is minus 3 on 2. And our y-intercept is just the coordinate that is by itself, the number that's by itself, which is 3. So this has been written in a different way. The terms are placed in a different manner. That's not a problem. Okay, one way this line could be expressed is y equals minus 3 on 2x plus 3. Okay, so now you can see y equals mx plus c. Here we're just trying to be a little bit deceptive. We're just making sure you understand where the slope goes. The slope is always in front of the x. Okay, let's graph this one. So we always start with our y-intercept. Our y-intercept this time is positive 3. So we've got up to positive 3. That's our first point. Now we have a slope of minus 3 on top of 2. Minus 3 on top of 2. So remember, the change in x always goes from left to right. The change in x, the bottom one, let me write this up here again. Delta y on delta x, change in y on change in x. X changes by 2, so we're going across 2 spaces. But y changes by negative 3. Negative 3 because there's a negative out the front of this fraction. That means y is going down, okay? So we've gone across 2, down 3. Here's our next coordinate. All right, and then it just keeps repeating that, right? Across 2, down 3. And then all we're doing is drawing a line through the coordinates that we've established. That is how we graph the equation of a line. All right, so that's how we do it in y-intercept form. So that's enough for you to do 11F.1, question 1 and 3. Okay, 11F.1, question 1 and 3. We will go over the next part.